We're back with another knitting update, and I'm really excited for this one because look what came last week. So we're going to talk all things whips, all things finished object. We're going to talk my knitting machine, what I've accomplished this week with it, and Knitfest this weekend. I made my list of things to keep an eye out for. So I'm cozied up in the yarn room. It's a chilly morning. Yes, I am decked out in my Christmas stuff because it's the season and I'm so excited. I've got my candy cane earrings in. I've got my holiday frames and my beautiful little Grinchy shirt. I'm also drinking a gingerbread chai again because we need to use up our milk before we leave this weekend. So that's what I'm sipping on. So good. So I say, let's start with my whips. So I did not touch my dad's scarf this week. It didn't get done. And I'm not worried about it because, like I said, I have a train ride this weekend. I'm going to tuck my bracelet in so it doesn't clankety clank around. I have a long train ride this weekend. It's a great mobile project to take. So I didn't get anything done on his, but I think this weekend I'll get a good chunk done. However, I did do some rows on my Olga sweater. Now, it's not a lot, but I do want to share with you because I think I did like 2.5 or 3.5 rows, or stripes, sorry, and each stripe is 4 rounds. So to me, it doesn't seem like a lot, but any progress is progress. So I'm chalking this up as a win. Some projects, you fly through them. And I think for me, I'm usually such a monogamous knitter. I just knit on one thing. So things tend to go quickly. But right now, I've got Christmas gifts. I've got sock machine. I've got my sweater. I'm not knitting on just this. And so I think my problem was I was getting really defeated because I'm not seeing a whole lot of progress on this. But I'm just trying to remind myself that any progress is progress. And even if I just do one stripe a week, that's still progress. Some projects are slower than others, and that's okay. I am still very much enjoying the why do I always do this? The process of this. I'm still really enjoying it. It's just moving slower, but that's okay. But I did get a couple of stripes done. So we're gaining in length. I'm not sure. I was thinking this weekend, I was like, maybe when I get done with the body, I should do the neckline, which I don't usually do. But like I said, I know I'm playing yarn chicken, and I think I'm gonna lose regardless because I'm modifying the neckline. But I'm thinking if I do the neckline, it may help me move through the sleeves a lot quicker because that's already done. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to finish the body and then I'm going to do the neckline. Like I said, I am changing the neckline from the pattern. I saw it on my Instagram. It's a modified, what is it called? I don't know, but it's essentially like a couple rows of double knitting and then you do your folded collar. And it just has this beautiful look to it and it lays really nice because that double knitting at the base. So that's what I'm going to do for this. And I've just decided right now with you guys, thanks for the help. I'm going to finish the body and then I'm going to do the neckline. Like I said, I'm like 99% sure I'm going to run out of yarn, which just means that if I run out of yarn, I'm not going to get this done before we leave. I'm probably not going to get it done before we leave anyway. This is moving real slow. So probably, I'll probably not have this finished before we go to Ohio. That's okay. But when we get back, I can at least order the yarn because it comes from from Scotland, and order it here to our actual apartment. And it should be here and I can finish it in the new year. which is perfectly fine. But I'll get as far as I can with what I have. We'll see. Maybe I'll be okay. That's okay. But that's my progress on my Olga sweater. I forgot to mention it. That's the Olga sweater by Petite Knit. And I'm very much enjoying it when I get to work on it. So there's that. And then, like I said, I didn't get anything done on my dad's scarf. That'll be this weekend though, because we have a almost 4-hour train ride to Zurich. So maybe more on that next week. However, I thought my other, nope, it's back there. Pause for a moment. I wanted to talk about, yarn is falling. Stay. I wanted to talk about a new cast on and finished object that I finished. And then in doing so, I then decided to add 2 more Christmas gifts to my list because I don't have enough already. Does anybody else do that? You get making for Christmas time and then you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna make. And then you make it and you're like, oh, I have more time. I'm gonna make this person this and then this person this. That's what I do every year and I hate myself for it. I'm cutting myself off after these though. It's for my niece and my nephew, so that's why I'm like, it's okay. My nephew, they're not gonna take long. It's just like 2 more lines on my to-do list that I really wish I didn't have. But anyway, I cast on something new this weekend because my mom FaceTimed me last week, I think it was, and she held her sock up to the camera. And I do not know what my mom does to these things. I really don't. But she has giant holes in the bottom of her socks. I make her these like slipper socks. They're like a thicker sock that she wears around the house. She wears them all the time, but she wears holes in the bottom. And the pair that she showed me is actually the pair that I reinforced. I went through with like a weaving style with like an extra layer of yarn and she wore through it. Like there's giant holes. And then she's like crying as she's throwing them away because she feels bad. But I'm like, Mom, I cannot save those. I cannot. So I decided I'm gonna make her another pair and I'm gonna show them because they're not a Christmas gift. She knows that they're coming. And yeah, so this pattern is actually really special to me. It's how I learned to knit socks. I always tell people when they ask like how I learned to knit, I say you start with the big yarn. So these are actually made in a super bulky, which is like a 6 on the yarn weight scale. But this is how I learned to knit socks, and it taught me the construction of the sock. It taught me the different components of the sock. And it was great because it was quick. So these are the Movie Night Slipper Socks by Denim and Rain Fibers. And I suggest this pattern all the time to people wanting to learn to make socks because it's going to teach you the components on a really big gauge and then you can like work down from there. And that's what I did. I started with this super bulky yarn and then I went to a worsted weight and then I went to a DK weight, and then I went to a fingering weight. And it worked out great because a sock is a sock. All the components are the same. So I've made my mom these for many years. She wears holes in them every time. It is what it is. So I followed that pattern and I made her a new set of slipper socks for the house. I kept it light colors because she has dogs, both of them white, so fur. So the yarn I used is Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick. Okay, not the Woolies, the worsted weight one. Woolies Thick and Quick. It's a great yarn. I use this yarn for a lot of like these projects and stuff. It is a wool acrylic blend. Yeah, she loves them. She gets so much use out of these. So I modified the cuff because the original pattern calls for a folded cuff. I knit stripes, 2 row stripes, so I felt like I was happy with the leg length. And then I did not stripe anywhere on the heel, flap, turn, or gusset, which is why this is all plain. And then I striped the foot. just because I didn't want the headache of striping while I'm decreasing on my gusset. So these I cast on and finished. These don't take long at all. I could honestly, if I sit down and really focus, I can get one done a day, a pair in 2 days. However, my mom said that would be a really great gift for Cody, my nephew, because I guess he was asking to wear hers the other time at the house. So I was like, oh, I'll make him a pair. But then I was like, oh, can I modify this for a, like, little, Charlie's little, my niece is little, okay? These are gonna be too big. But then I remembered Denim and Rain Fibers also came out with a bulky weight slipper sock, and they were called the Little Stitches socks, and she actually had kid sizes in that. So I pulled up that pattern and was like, yep, I'm able to make my niece a pair as well. So my niece and my nephew are also gonna get a pair of these. My nephew's is gonna be this size, just the foot length will be different. And my niece's will be this style, but obviously smaller for her feet. So this is my finished object this week. I'm actually really happy with it. I know my mom's gonna get a ton of use out of it, which is why I don't mind making them for her. But I apparently need to make a couple more pairs because she showed me her backup pair and it has holes as well. I'm like, what do you do to these poor socks? So this is a finished object that I'm really happy about. I'll have 2 more pair coming, just not at the moment. And that is all of my whips. I'm so sorry. I'm recovering from a head cold that I had all weekend. You can probably still hear it. I was miserable all weekend. But I am feeling better. It's just the residual stuff. Okay, so before we start talking about my sock machine, because that's going to take up a good chunk of this, I wanted to talk about Knitfest. So Knitfest is my first ever yarn festival that I'm going to this weekend. We leave on Friday and I'm so excited. We are going to train down to Zurich, so thankfully we've just got a quick trip. 2 connections, because we're not staying in Zurich, we're staying like on the outskirts. But it's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited. I've been watching their Instagram all week and seeing all the things that are coming, and they're getting geared up and ready for it. So it's gonna be great. I'm very excited. But if you remember last week, I was saying I wanted to come up with like a list of things, not necessarily like a shopping list, I need to get A, B, C, D, but just something to keep in the back of my mind. A couple projects that I'm looking to do next. And for my size, you know, planning out what size I'm going to be, planning out the yardage, and just having an idea. That way if I see something that I like, I can just kind of like reference my notes app and be like, oh, this would work for this project. This would be really cool. So I went ahead and did that. And I have 4 things that I'm like, okay, keep an eye out for these. The first one, I don't think I'm going to find, if I'm completely honest. But this is a project that I have wanted to do basically this entire year. I saw a friend make a pair last winter, and I reached out to her about it and was like, hey, how was it? And she was like, it's a little bit of work, it's a little terrifying, but it's so much fun. And then I saw this pattern come out and I was like, I feel like this is fate telling me, Tiffany, you need to try this. And that is to felt a pair of slipper socks. So if you're not aware of what that means, essentially you have to use 100% wool, not treated, okay? Because it's going to get felted. And I'll explain what that means in a minute. But essentially you make this slipper sock that looks like Goofy's foot, okay? It's this ginormous, oversized slipper sock. It does not fit you at all. But then you throw it in your washing machine I know I'm anti-washing machine on my knits, but you have to throw it in your washing machine and you have to use very hot water, because as it spins in the hot water, it's going to felt the wool fibers together. It shrinks the wool, and then when it comes out, you put them wet on your feet to shape them, and then you leave them to dry. And then you have a perfectly fit pair of slipper socks that are 100% wool. I have seen 2 designers now come out with felted slipper sock patterns, and I just think they're amazing. So I was like, okay, I need to try this. I think I want to do this. The problem is though, it is made on super bulky yarn. So that's not the most common yarn to find. I did find a commercial yarn, I think it's called Drops Snow, that is a 100% super wool, super bulky size. And I'm probably gonna end up having to order it online, but I'm gonna put it in my notes app just to keep an eye on it. Thankfully, I know my EU shoe size. And so I have, the ones I wanna make, they're like one color for the sole, they're striped on the top, and then the I-cord that goes around is a different color. Because when those are felted together, the I-cord's different, the sole is different, and you can still see the stripes. So it looks really cute. The pattern, oh my gosh. The pattern I'm looking at doing is called the Sailor Slippers by Annie Germain. If you look that up, you'll see them. They are absolutely gorgeous. It's supposedly a super quick knit, which is another reason I'm like, this is really fun. So I have my shoe size. I have the yardage of what I would need for 4 colors. So we'll see. Maybe I'll find something, but more than likely I'm gonna have to order these online, and it may just be one of those I order when we get back to the States and get it to my mom's house. I'm actually really excited to go back to the States because there's a lot of things that I need to order. There's just some things that we just can't get over here, or it's just too much of a headache to get it sent to the APO box. And while I'm loving all my yarn options over here, there are some yarns that I'm like, I need to restock on this. For instance, I don't like to use acrylic yarn, but my mom and Jared both don't like wool. So I have to use acrylic for them. But my acrylic stash is basically gone. I can't make any like big garments with it. And my favorite acrylic to work with is at Hobby Lobby. But I can't order on Hobby Lobby because it picks up the VPN for over here and I'm not allowed on that site. So I need to go back to the States, go to Hobby Lobby, stock up on the yarn. And I also just need to get yarn ordered to my mom's house. That's not going to take 4 weeks to get to me because a lot of times that's what it is over here. So this wool yarn, I may end up just ordering to my mom's house to bring back with me because I want to make these like immediately. So that's the first thing on the Knitfest list. Say that 5 times fast. The second thing, I have 2 sweaters. I really sat down. I've got a lot of sweaters that I would like love to make. But these 2, I think more so than others. I'm going to pull up a picture because I really do want to show you, especially the one. So the first one is by Rebecca Clow, which she's this beautiful designer that I'm trying to think if I've made anything by her yet. I've admired her designs for years. A lot of them are on my to-do list. I just have never done it. But she came out with this sweater and immediately I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And it is called the Afric. And it is just this beautiful, it's all worsted weight, okay? So it's a quick, worsted weight sweaters are like my happy place. I love a good worsted weight sweater. But it's a worsted weight sweater and it is raglan increases. So we increase here and the same on the back. but it's got color work involved, and it's just stunning. So this is the Afric sweater. I just love, there's another color of it. I just love the Fair Isle look of it. The color work, it does not look to be difficult. Like I said, I'm no stranger to color work. I actually very much enjoy color work. So I have my yardage for that. It's a main color and 3 contrast colors. This is one that I really may try to look for because this sweater is just plain stunning. So I'm gonna add it to my notes app and just keep an eye out for this one. Like I said, worsted weight. The thing is, I don't really know what I'm gonna be walking into there. I don't know if it's gonna be a lot of natural fibers, if it's gonna be a lot of indie dyers. I'm just not sure. So I just wanna keep that in the back of my mind for later. Oh, here's the sailor slippers. Okay, so these are the felted slippers I was telling you about. Are those not adorable? Yeah, so does she have one of the bottom? Can you see the bottom? That's hard too. But these are the sailor slippers that I was telling you about. Sorry, I should have pulled that up to begin with. And then the next sweater, it is a DK weight sweater. Not my favorite, but not my least favorite. And it is called the Nordic Snowflake Sweater by Cheryl Mokatari. And if you know anything about me, you know I love color work, but you know that I love Nordic inspired sweaters. I don't know why. Nordic knits is just one of my favorite kind of knits, and I love a good old Nordic star, and this sweater is just absolutely stunning. Is that not just beautiful? So it looks like it's a circular yoke, and I think, no, all of that is done. The whole motif is done before you split for sleeves. I just love where it lays. It's not right up on the neck. It's a little down. It kind of like elongates, which is really good for me because I have very broad shoulders. I just think it's absolutely stunning. I thought this was stunning, but then I always go to the projects page, and this one is the one that's made me go, yep, I need to make that. I just think that high contrast, it's stunning. So it is made in a DK, or you could do a fingering held with a lace weight. I don't know which I'm going to do. I'm leaning more towards just a DK. I'm very picky when it comes to a lace weight, such as mohair. I find mohair itchy. I can do Surrey alpaca, or I have a cashmere lace that I could hold with it, but I'm leaning more towards just straight up DK. So I have my yardage for that. It's a little more yardage than what I thought it was going to be. I did the math like 3 times because I was like, this doesn't seem right. But it is right. So that one is also very high on my list. I think I didn't, besides our Christmas sweaters, I didn't make like a Christmassy sweater this year. Not like I've done in past years. I did my big old doodle sweater last year with all my snowflakes on it. And the year before that, I made my festive yoke. So this might be a nice little winter one. It's stunning. I love those colors too. So I'm keeping my eye out for that. And then the last thing, I did not want to have another sweater. So I chose an accessory. And this one has been on my queue for quite some time. And it is called the Waffle Ridge Scarf by Tiff Nealon. She used North Bay Fiber Heritage DK in 3 different colors. I love it because I love a good waffle stitch. I also love waffles. But this is what that scarf looks like. I think it's just beautiful. It's just such a good staple type of sweater. It doesn't take much. It's 3 skeins of a DK, and so you just pick 3 of your favorite colors that you like and stick them together in a scarf. And with it being, you know, scarf season, there's just so many ways that you can wear this. I just thought it would be a really great accessory. And like I said, this has been on my list for a while. So I really like how it's knotted on the ends there. So that's the last thing on my list. So there's 4 projects right there to just keep an eye out for. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going in and being like, I need 3 skeins of DK, you know, this much yardage of DK for this sweater and worsted weight for this one. These are just going to be things in the back of my mind that if I find something I like, maybe just cross-reference with what I have. I'm not one to just willy-nilly buy yarn. I like to have a planned project in mind. This is not willy-nilly. I know it looks willy-nilly, but it's not, okay? Most of these skeins have a project. Like this white one over here, these are for another pair of mittens, okay? And then my glue vine sweater, that is sitting there. Sweater quantities are up there. That gray one is for a knit lovey for Aiden. All of these have a project in mind when I bought them, and I will make it with that. Like when I'm ready to make a knit lovey, I'll pull down that gray one and be like, let's make Good Mouse, because that's what I bought it for. It's just when I'm wanting to make that. So I don't just buy yarn to buy yarn. I usually have a project in mind. So it helps when I go into these things with a project in mind. So these will go in my notes app, and I'll just keep an eye out as I shop on Saturday. Like I said, I really don't know what to expect. I've never been to a yarn festival before, and this is the first year for Knitfest. So there's not even like a things to keep in mind at Knitfest type of thing like there is for like Rhinebeck or Flock. We're going in blind, and that's okay, but I'm not making my expectations very high. So that's Knitfest. The last thing to talk about is my sock machine. And I think I left you with saying I don't know where it's at. I think it's here, but it's not here. And I was correct. It actually got here. I picked it up last Wednesday evening at Jared's work. He went over and got it for me. So it actually got there a week before, which is insane to me. But like I said, we're having a lot of issues with our APO box over here. I sent in a customer inquiry. I made an ICE complaint, just trying to get this machine, because I'm not talking about like a $30 Amazon package. I needed this machine in my possession because I had spent thousands of dollars on it. So I eventually got it after, it's actually funny how it happens. They email you about your customer inquiry, and then they're like, yeah, it's here. It got here a week ago, but we're backlogged, so you'll get it when you get it. And then it was like an hour later, I got an email notification that it was ready for pickup. So it's almost like they see that and then they're like, oh, it's been here a week. Whoops, better get that out. So I went and picked that up last Wednesday, and then Jared sat and helped me get it assembled. This machine came in 2 boxes, and the box was, well, Jared was like, I was expecting this to be much bigger. You said it was a giant wooden box with a rope handle. And as soon as we opened the box, it was a giant wood box with a rope handle. It was drilled shut. So they designed this whole box to hold this machine, so it was actually really, really cool. We kept the box so that when we move, we can just put the components back in the machine or in the box and ship it that way. But my one big beef is there was no instructions. There was no instructions at all. I got a certificate of purchase, and that includes like a warranty on it for a couple of years. I got a couple of patterns but no instruction manual of how to assemble it, what to do, not even how to take it out of the box, okay? I just went in blind. So Jared and I, we first assembled the table and we got that up and going, which we were just laughing at because that came with instructions, but the instructions were horrendous because the components that the instructions were saying was not what mine was. I had one pin and a bolt and it was like, pull out both pins. And I was like, I only have one pin. So it was really funny. But then we opened up this big old wood box and everything is drilled down. Everything is screwed to the inside. So we just started unscrewing everything and taking things out. And he's like, what's this? I was like, I have no idea. I don't know what it is. And we're just trying to figure this out. So God bless Jared, but he, for the most part, got things like put together while I was on YouTube trying to like pull up things. I wish that they would like actually do a, you just got your box, let's set it up together type of video so that you know, because somebody like me who I don't know any components of a circular sock machine. I was just lost. But I will say it is a beast of a machine. So even though there was no instruction manual on how to put it together, the couple videos I did find, we had to tweak a couple of things because we had no idea what we were doing. We got it set up. And yeah, so if you're curious, I bought the Earl Bacher Gerhardt circular sock machine. They are based in Missouri, I believe. It's all made in the United States of America. I love that. I love everything about this machine. Okay. So I watched one video on YouTube, one video, and then I was like, all right, let's go. And I immediately wanted to crank a tube. So I did. I chose yarn that I was like, if I mess this up and this gets ruined, it's okay. But, you know, eventually, okay, here's what's going to happen. Eventually, I'm going to sign up for the School of Sweet Georgia circular sock machine class. I'm going to at least do a month, and just so I can retain as much information as I can, and actually learn how to crank a whole sock on the machine. Because you can do that. You don't just have to crank tubes. You can make the heel, you can make the toe, all on the machine. But for right now, I'm just cranking tubes. Because I don't mind adding the heels and toes. I don't mind adding the heels and toes, sorry. And it's still feels like I'm knitting because I have to add those. So right now we're just cranking tubes. So I set up my setup bonnet, and then I, you know, threaded my waist yarn, and off I went. And I even got fancy and did a folded hem, a hung hem. And these are my socks. Isn't that amazing? So I quickly learned I don't like this size of cuff. So the other ones I'm going to show you, you're going to see a different size. But this yarn is called Orange Garland. I think by Craft Me Not was the yarn. But these were my first pair. And originally I was like, okay, Tiffany, you have one rule. You can only crank a tube, and then you have to do the heels and the toes before you can crank another tube. Because I don't want to have all of my sock yarn already cranked just sitting there waiting. So I stood by that rule. As soon as I finished on my heels and my toes, I cranked my next tube. And this yarn is from Hugh Loco. It's the Backyard Chicken Collection. She dyes yarn for like different chickens and roosters. And this was the next one that I did. This colorway is gorgeous. You see the difference of the folded hem? I doubled it. This is 40 rows, and then you hang it. So 20 and then 20 on the inside. So this is the next pair that I'm going to be working on. This is the contrast heel and toe. That's another reason why I'm just doing tubes right now, because a lot of my skeins have a contrast color that I want to do for the heel and the toe. I'm sure you can do it on the machine, but like I said, I really don't mind knitting it. It still gives me that factor of like, yeah, I cranked these out in like 20 minutes, but I'm still knitting on them. So this is my next one. But then I got going for the week and I was like, you know what, I have a lot of half-used skeins in there that I could at least make a pair of shorty socks with. And I ended up going through my entire crate of half-used skeins, which is this little one down here. And I basically divided it into two skeins that I could make a shorty pair of socks with, or skeins that I don't have enough. It's going to have to be for like a contrast, you know, heel toe cuff or color work. Set that to the side. And all of the skeins that I could make a shorty pair with, I put to the side and was like, okay, I'm going to break my rule. I'm going to crank all of these into tubes and just have a pile, because these are great travel projects. They're small, they're pretty quick, you're doing the same thing. I don't need to carry a pattern with me. So I wanted to have a pile of ones that I could just pick one from and go. So I broke my rule and I started doing that. Now, before I started knitting on those, Before I started knitting on those, I needed to get Jared's Christmas socks cranked. And then I had a skein of this Christmas yarn that I really wanted to get cranked. And I wanted to use the whole skein because I love this yarn. And so I wanted to crank the whole skein so that I could just make as many pairs of socks as I could. So before I started on the half-used skeins, I did that. I cranked Jared's first, and his is so much fun. I'm making him hot pink socks this year. I actually have, let me grab, because I really want to show you the contrast color that I'm going to do. Is it you? I think it was you and I don't know where the other one is. So this is my minis. This is where I keep them all. This is all contrast heel toes cuff type of deal. No, I don't feel like it was you. Where did I put that? I have absolutely no idea. That's frustrating. I really don't feel like it was. Hang on. Oh, now I'm just making a mess. I found one. Maybe it is that. I don't know. Sorry, scattered-brained. I'm actually not sure if it's that. I'll show it to you, but it may not be that one. I'm making him hot pink socks though because he wears anything that I make, and he actually really does like pink. He has a fun pink shirt he wears when he flies. And I was like, would you wear pink socks? And he's like, yeah, I'd wear pink socks. So I made him pink socks. I cranked 2 tubes, 40 row cuff, which I think is just, it's great. Now mostly men's socks, I do a 72 stitch circumference. This is a 64. Jared has slim, weird feet, so these fit him better. The 72, it's just too loose for him. So keeping with this. And then the contrast, I really don't think it was this one, but I don't remember. It was giving Workout Barbie vibes from, you remember Workout Barbie? Okay, it was giving that, the actual doll, not from the movie. Okay, it was giving that kind of vibe. I don't think I can get 4 heels and toes out of this, probably just 2. So then we also have this fun pinky purple one that we're going to do. So I cranked Jared's Christmas socks. I'll get working on those. And then I cranked this one. And this is the one, this is the Christmas yarn I've been hoarding for 3 years. The colorway is called Gingerbread Nutcracker. And let me just give you a close-up of this color scheme. Now, I am not a huge fan of variegated yarn like this, the one with all the speckles and stuff. I've only ever found one other colorway variegated that I fell in love with, and that's Snowy Vixen from her name is escaping me. Oh, I can't even think of it. But I made my Bennett sister shawl in it. That's the only other one that I was like, this is beautiful. It's even, it's gorgeous. This is number 2 on my list. This is stunning. It's so Christmassy. And I even reached out to the designer and was like, you nailed it with this one. If you ever need a hype girl to bring this colorway back, let me know. I'll hype you up, okay? Because I would buy a sweater quantity to make a sweater. I cranked the whole tube. I didn't do any hung hems. I have 2 minis that came with this that I want to use because I love the colors together. So I cranked the whole tube from start to end. My machine is a speedster. It's a 1-to-1. 1 crank is 1 row. Do you want to guess how many rows this one was? It was well over 600. Okay, cranking. My right arm is gonna be so buff. But this is how much 1 skein of yarn cranks. It's insane. So I think I'm gonna get at least 3 pairs out of this, judging by like, that's usually a sock, and then maybe 2 shorties. I don't know. At least 2 pairs for sure out of this. Which is always really fun because, you know, indie dyed yarn like this, it's more expensive. It's like $30, $35 a skein. And if I'm able to get 2 pairs of socks out of it, that's $15 a pair of socks. If I'm able to get more out of that, I love a good bang for my buck. So I got those done, and then I was like, all right, we are starting on these half-use skeins. I started with the first one because I was like, I think my nephew would like these. And the colorway is called String of Lights. So it's a black yarn. It's got strings of lights, and some of the lights glow under black light. They're actually really fun. I've already made a pair of socks for myself in this colorway, but I knew I had enough yarn for at least 1 more pair. So I cranked it. Now you're gonna see some color pooling on this, and I will explain what happened, okay? This yarn is the one that derailed my plans for the week. I had a lot of trouble cranking this, and I'll explain why in a second. But this is String O Lights. Do you see? That's what it looks like. Do you see this color pooling? Yeah. Sometimes this happens depending on your tension, which I'll explain about in a minute. My tension was all over the place for this skein of yarn. Thankfully, it doesn't really matter. They're just gonna be fun socks for my nephew anyway. So I'll probably make like cuff, foot, just to try to, at least the part that's showing could be the pretty part. I had a lot of trouble with this yarn because it was still in a cake. So you have a hank, and then you have to wind the hank into a cake. And technically with these machines, they work best with cones of yarn, not cakes. You can use a cone, or you can use a cake, but it's gonna work better on a cone. And when I say cone, I mean a literal cone, okay? Now, I have to get a machine that I can crank these on because mine only does cakes. However, my machine came with an attachment that you stick in, and you put that on a drill bit, and then you can zzz, and it spins it, and then you can wind it that way. So that's what I'm using right now. But for this one, I did not use a cone. I used the cake. This has been sitting for at least 2 years in that cake. It was pulling hard. So it was pulling, you wanted to like lightly come up the back, but it was really struggling to pull that yarn, and there was knots that was happening. It was getting caught in my machine. I was really having to crank, and I was like, this is no bueno. I don't like this. So immediately after this, I decided, pause. And I took all of my skeins of half-used yarn that I was getting ready to do, and I spent all yesterday putting them onto cones. I have 2 more that I need to do, which is why these are empty. And then all of them are on cones. So I've got some of my office collection. This one is Kevin's Chili. This is actually a really fun story because there's a sock hanging right there that I used for this. It was the first sock I ever made, and it doesn't fit on a foot. I've got That's What She Said. I've got some Sorella yarn, Tchaikovsky. I've got some from Hobby Lobby. This is a cotton wool blend. Bears Beats Battlestar Galactica. I've got just some random solids. This one's a Woolberry one. So I'm now ready to crank these. Okay, I added all of them onto cones. I feel better about cranking them when they're on cones. So I was able to do 2 of them yesterday. The first one, I don't know if I'm going to get socks out of this. We will have to see. It's a lot shorter than I thought, but it is a self-striping yarn, one of my favorites. This is all I got out of it. So I'm thinking if I add the cuffs, I don't know. We'll have to see. But this one is at least done. And then I did do 2 hung hems, and I am not going to do that for any more of these because I can't properly judge how much yarn I have left. The first one I cranked 100 rows after the hem. The second one I got to 70 and I ran out of yarn. So this one is 30 rows longer. These are definitely going to be shorties. So we'll see. But this one was called Ode to My Valentine. It's a really pretty tweedy, kind of variegated. So that's all the cranking that I got done this week. All of these will eventually get cranked. I'm not in a rush to get them cranked into tubes. This is the pile that I have to pull from as I'm like traveling around, but I also have Jared's to worry about and my chicken yarn to worry about and my nutcracker yarn. So I'm not like in a huge rush to get these into tubes. That does not include my fancy yarn up here that I am going to be cranking, but just not at the moment. Those are probably going to be the ones I work on when I figure out how to make a whole sock on the machine. But for now, we're just cranking tubes. I feel better now that they're all on cones. I'm probably not going to worry about much more about them this week. Like I said, we leave for Zurich on Friday. I have a couple to take with me for the train and while I'm at the festival, and we'll probably just get back into this stuff next week when I get back. So yeah, I am excited to take the class because I know that there's a lot more about this machine that I need to learn about. But it's been really fun to just kind of sit and trial and error as I go. For instance, this one yesterday, I was cranking and I didn't see that a stitch got dropped, and then halfway through it fixed itself, but I had a whole drop stitch for like half of it. So I ended up cranking the whole thing, and then I had to recone the whole thing and do it again because I had that stitch that was dropped. I couldn't fix it at that point. So there's a lot of trial and error with this machine, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I do need to name it because there's always, I have full-on conversations with my machine, and I just want to name it so that I can either cheer it on or scold it for messing up. I'm not really sure what to name it, if I'm completely honest. I was thinking, okay, so Jared and I, we are huge Office fans, which is why I have like some of the Office yarn. So I really wanted to name it like an Office, like a character from The Office. And I was thinking like, if I name it Dwight, then I could like say some of the lines like, Dwight, you ignorant slut. Like, or I could just name it Michael and just yell, Michael, every time it messes up. But I'm not too sure yet. I want to give myself some time to figure it out. If you have any fun, I always thought Beasley. I was like, Beasley? But then I was like, no, I don't know. So I'm gonna give it a little more time so I can like figure out if I like, you know, what name. But if you have any suggestions, drop them in the comments and help me out. I do want to get like some Office stickers for my table and maybe my stem weights hanging there. I think it's really fun. It's, a lot of people will say it's cheating. You're cheating. You're not knitting. I very much disagree. There is so much work that goes into this machine just to crank a tube. And then when you did crank the tube, you're not done, because you then have to unpick your waste yarn to release it from the setup bonnet. And then you still have heels and toes to like cut in. So it is definitely still knitting. It's just a different type of knitting. I'm thinking ahead in my life. Someday, carpal tunnel is going to catch up with me, and I'm going to have very arthritic hands, and this machine is still going to allow me to knit. And I just think that's the beautiful thing. Aiden is also really interested in the machine, and so he will often bring back a second chair and sit with me, and he'll crank it with me, and he'll add the weights. It's one of those, in the beginning I was very against him being near me with this machine, but I quickly changed my mind when I just saw how interested he was. He's a very methodical kid. He likes to see how things work. And so I think he really likes that machine for this reason. And someday this machine is going to be his. This thing is going to get passed down for generations. It is a beast. And so I was like, he should just learn now. Because maybe he'll become like in middle school and be like, Mom, can I just make a pair of socks? I just need to not think for a bit. And be like, go crank it, buddy. Go on in there. You know what you're doing. So I very much let him be involved, cranking and, you know, with the weights and stuff. And yeah, it's been a really fun activity for us. So I'm probably not going to be cranking anything today. I'm going to work on a couple projects and then probably start figuring out my knit bag for the weekend. And yeah, I gotta pack and do the grocery store because we are training there, so we always take a snack bag with us, to especially because it's Switzerland and it's way more expensive, so we try to take our snacks with us, and all of that fun stuff. So that's all I've got for this week. Hopefully next week when I come back, it's gonna be a very busy week and weekend, but hopefully I can't wait to tell you all about Knitfest. Hopefully I'll be able to take some video and pictures while I'm there, just to share on here. I'm not going to do like a separate video because I don't want to be that person walking around with a camera in my face and stuff. So I'll probably just like show you here. But yeah, talk about Knitfest, talk about our time in Switzerland, and yeah, whatever my plans will be for next week, which will probably be a whole lot of cranking. And hopefully I make some progress on some Christmas gifts this week. I've got 3 Christmas gifts and then I'm done. I'm cutting myself off. Oh shoot, no, I have that 4th one. Okay, 4 Christmas gifts and then I'm done. So hopefully those get done here soon. Because we have a really busy month and we go home in 30 days. So excited. All right, I'm gonna go knit. You guys have a great rest of your week. I'll talk to you next week.